Now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons from Delaware, who serves on the Foreign Relations, Judiciary, and Appropriations Committees. Senator, thank you very much for being with us. So, as you know, there's a fine line between sending a strong message to Iran, through its proxies perhaps, while avoiding an escalation in the region and avoiding an all-out war with Iran. How do you balance that?
Well, this is one of those moments when I am so grateful that our president has decades of experience in foreign policy and in the region. It is a tough balance to strike, Andrea, and I know that his national security leadership, our nation's military leadership, have presented the president with a range of options. What he's trying to balance is sending a forceful, strong, and clear message to Iran and their proxies that continued strikes that harm or kill Americans will be fought back decisively. But he's also got an eye to the developments in the negotiations between Israel and Hamas to achieve a 40-day ceasefire in Gaza in exchange for the release of dozens and dozens of hostages. And he's also gotten an eye on the other challenges in the region. Hezbollah, which continues to fire rockets from Lebanon into the north of Israel, and the Houthis, who continue to harry and harass shipping in the Red Sea. So it needs to be a series of actions that show determination, forcefulness, and American capabilities, but not overdo it such that we then expand into a regional conflagration.
So what do you say to your colleagues who are saying, go after Iran, that deterrence has not worked?
I don't think a strike directly into the heartland of Iran that causes massive casualties is wise at this point, but I do think forceful strikes against a series of targets throughout the region that are Iranian proxies that will degrade their capabilities and that, frankly, will take the lives of those who are attacking shipping, attacking American troops, and attacking Israel. I think that's the sort of course we're likely to see, and I think that's proportional and a justified response.
Secretary Austin apologized today to the said that he apologized to the president, but also apologized to the public for being secretive about his cancer diagnosis and his surgery, his hospitalization. Is that adequate?
I think the president continues to have confidence in the secretary. I think it was appropriate and adequate for him to take personal responsibility and for the White House to promptly conduct a review of succession and continuity plans for each of the cabinet secretaries. It's important for this incident for your viewers to be clear that at no point was the chain of command broken. At no point was our national security put at risk. But the secretary needed to be clear with the American public, our president, those of us here in Congress, that he took responsibility for having been perhaps more understandably private about a delicate medical condition and surgery than is appropriate given his role as Secretary of Defense.
Turning to the border and, of course, the Ukraine funding and these funding for Israel that it's being held up because it's all packaged together. The lead negotiator, Senator Langford, the Republican negotiator, says that the bill is getting closer to the finish line, but he also had this warning for critics of the legislation who have not even read the bill, and that would include the Speaker of the House.
The biggest struggle that everybody's got right now is no one's been able to read it. And so everyone's going off of internet rumors. And there's lots of things that are out there that are just patently false. For instance, this ongoing thing that this allows 5,000 people in a day every day and checks them in. There's no way that's in the bill. Number one, I would never agree to that. But it's also just a total mischaracterization of the bill.
So now there are reports that Mitch McConnell might be in favor of taking the border out, clearly, if it's not going to get resolved, and at least separating that out and doing the Ukraine funding. Would you support that?
Andrea, I spoke to Leader McConnell about that exact question earlier this week, and he remains determined to secure funding for Ukraine, as do his principal allies and lieutenants in the Republican caucus, Senators Thune and Cornyn. I think it would be a tragic mistake after months and months of Republicans insisting that the crisis at the border is so urgent that it demands legislative action, for the Republicans then to turn around and say, oh, never mind, we don't need any legislative solution here, when a conservative champion of conservative principles on immigration, James Langford, drove a hard bargain and got to a point that would put in law a number of the most conservative changes in asylum practice and in deportation practices that we've seen in a long time. So I think, Andrea, it would be a mistake for us to step away from this larger package. I'm gravely concerned about getting funding to Ukraine, about getting funding for humanitarian relief into Gaza, into Ukraine, and for a dozen other countries that are not often mentioned, from Sudan to Somalia to the Central African Republic to Afghanistan to Syria to many others, where there are millions on the edge of starvation, and making sure that we are able to provide assistance to Israel. This is a moment when the Senate should show that we can lead through compromise. I am hopeful that the text of this bill will be released soon, tonight or tomorrow, and that after several days of reviewing what's actually in the bill, as opposed to what's rumored to be in the bill, that there will be enough votes to pass it here in the Senate. Senator Lankford is a friend. He is one of the most conservative members of the Senate I've ever called a friend. And I'm confident that once folks see what's in this deal, they'll recognize it's what the Republicans have been calling for months.
And what about the House? What if it dies in the House? Would you then separate out Ukraine?
Andrea, that would be a repeat of the tragic outcome the last time that we in the Senate did a comprehensive immigration bill, now many years ago, where after months of work it went to the House only to be ignored and die. If that happens, that will be a huge miscarriage of justice by the House. We should then take up and pass aid to Ukraine. But we shouldn't give up on this deal yet, because so much work has gone into it, and I think it is a pathway towards fixing an ongoing and an urgent challenge for our nation.
Senator Coons, as always, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
And